Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Stephanie Kappa with the World Wildlife Fund, and welcome to today's event, Water, Water Everywhere, a building block for global security, an online event in recognition of World Water Day 2022. Today's event will feature conversations with and remarks by Representative Earl Blumenauer, Representative Darin LaHood, Representative Grace Meng, and Representative Jackie Walorski. Welcome, representatives. Thank you for joining us today. Our event today is hosted by the Global Health Council, IAPMO, Interaction, Millennium Water Alliance, UNICEF USA, WaterAid America, World Vision, and World Wildlife Fund in conjunction with the bipartisan Congressional International Water and Sanitation Caucus. As we get started here today, I want to go over two bits of housekeeping. First is, as we move through today's program, if you have any questions at any time, please add them to the chat and one of our team members will follow up with you shortly. The second is a video of today's event will be made available on Interaction's YouTube page, and we will share a link around with registrants after the event. For 60 years, World Wildlife Fund has been working to create a future in which nature and people thrive. Yet freshwater systems are under enormous threat. Since 1970, freshwater species populations have declined worldwide by 84%, and 1 in 3 freshwater species are threatened with extinction. The need to work across borders and across disciplines to protect fresh water for the food we eat, the water we drink, to address nature loss and climate change, and to invest in human security, health, and economic prosperity has never been more apparent. This year's World Water Day comes just days after Congress passed important new funding for global water security programs. And in just a few months, we'll see a new US global water strategy. So 2022 really is a pivotal year to build upon 2 decades of bipartisan US leadership for global water security and develop an integrated and transformational approach for the decades ahead. I'd now like to introduce our first speaker for today's event, Congressman Earl Blumenauer, who needs very little introduction and whom I've known for almost 2 decades as both a mentor and a champion for sustainability. In 2005, Congressman Blumenauer authored the bipartisan Senator Paul Simon Water for the Poor Act, which established clean water as a major foreign assistance priority. In 2014, Congressman Blumenauer worked to enact the Senator Paul Simon Water for the World Act, redoubling US efforts to help provide safe and sustainable drinking water and sanitation services around the world. He then went on to found the Congressional International Water and Sanitation Caucus here with us today, and who you'll be hearing from shortly. And he leads an annual effort to fund these critical programs to improve water security for millions more around the world. Congressman Blumenauer, thank you for your leadership and your support. Happy World Water Day. Now, over to you.
Thank you for your introduction, Stephanie. Seems like old times. Hello, everyone. I'm proud to be here on the 30th World Water Day to discuss the importance of American leadership for global water security. No matter where you live on our planet, sustainable freshwater and water security are essential. With the world fighting to protect the people of Ukraine and our own congressional dysfunction, it is all too easy to lose track of how critical managing and protecting our shared water resources is in the face of climate crisis. 90% of all natural disasters are water-related, like droughts, floods, storms, and other disruptive weather patterns. Poor water resource management also drives up the cost of food, especially for people in the developing world. A recent study by the World Wildlife Fund found that rivers support 1/3 of global food production through fisheries, irrigation, flood recession agriculture, and much more. However, our global rivers continue to be undervalued and poorly managed. In some cases, a lack of basic water infrastructure contributes to pollution. About 3.6 billion people worldwide do not even have access to toilet facilities, creating huge hazards to the health and safety of their communities. 30% of the global population lacks the ability to wash their hands with soap and water. Think of that. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw just how critical it is to have access to basic hygiene tools like this. Without proper sanitation and waste management, community health, education, and economies suffer. And the problem isn't just limited to individuals or family. Today, 1 in 4 healthcare facilities globally don't have access to water services. This is a grave oversight that leaves people who rely on these facilities at great risk. It increases the chance of outbreak of dangerous future variants and just ordinary infections. Universal access to safe water is a critical component for developing communities around the world. It's foundational for global security. I'm proud to co-chair the Congressional International Water and Sanitation Caucus with my colleagues, Representative Grace Meng, Representative Jackie Walorski, and Representative Darin LaHood, who you'll hear from today. Our caucus is working to promote access to clean water around the globe and ensure the United States can meet the emerging challenges in developing communities. American support for foreign aid and international development programs has an outsized impact, especially when we invest in the basics of providing sustainable access to clean water. In the recently approved federal funding package, we secured $470 million for water and sanitation programs at USAID. This funding is a critical contribution and a large increase from last year, but it is still just a drop in the bucket, if I can risk mixing my metaphors, compared to what the world really needs. American leadership in long-term, sustainable freshwater management and protection is essential for those communities, their economies, and for our security. We've made remarkable progress in recent years, but that support needs to continue and to be increased. As Congress begins working on next year's federal budget, I hope you will continue to fight for larger contributions to global WASH programs. And I want to thank you all for joining us for this World Water Day. I appreciate your continued advocacy for our shared goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Blumenauer, for those remarks and for your leadership, not only on World Water Day, but every day. We turn now to our next speaker, fellow co-chair of the Congressional Caucus for International Water and Sanitation, Representative Darin LaHood.
Welcome, everyone, to today's virtual World Water Day event. I'm Congressman Darin LaHood, and I represent the 18th District of Illinois. I want to thank all of the organizations for hosting today's event and their staff for their coordination and efforts to make this event possible. I am honored to work with my colleagues, Representatives Blumenauer, Volorski, and Meng, on the International Water and Sanitation Caucus. Through the caucus, we work to educate members of Congress and encourage them to elevate the importance of water and sanitation in U.S. development assistance and diplomacy. As we observe World Water Day, it provides an opportunity to highlight the value of how clean water and access to clean water can make a difference in our food, health, national security, and the environment. As co-chair of the caucus, I had the pleasure of meeting with Paul Edwards, Chief of WASH for UNICEF in the country of Lebanon. We discussed their ongoing efforts to improve water services for families in Lebanon. We also discussed the importance of coordination between NGOs, the private sector, and government in providing the necessary resources to improve health conditions and promote economic growth through WASH policies. I'm excited to learn more about the recent work of U.S. development efforts to improve water security, sanitation, and hygiene throughout the world. I would again like to thank the hosts of today's World Water Day event for inviting me to speak. I look forward to working with my co-chairs on the International Water and Sanitation Caucus on these important issues and look forward to continuing to work to raise awareness of water issues in Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative, for those words and for your leadership on global water security. As a reminder to those tuning in today, if you have questions for us, please submit them in the chat box and a team member will respond. Now we'll hear from our next speaker, Representative Jackie Walorski.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Jackie Walorski. On World Water Day, we reflect on the importance of this invaluable resource, both at home and around the world. Addressing food security, hunger, and health challenges across the globe requires reliable access to safe water. As we think about farmers and ag producers, water is an essential part of the equation for everything from caring for livestock to growing crops. And water is needed year-round to support public health and sanitation. In Congress, I helped to lead the WASH Caucus, which stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene, as we work on safeguarding access to water. World Vision is doing important work to improve watershed management and support agricultural communities across the globe as they produce food sustainability. This work is key to eliminate hunger and improve health outcomes, and it's my privilege to work alongside World Vision in this mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative, for those remarks and for your leadership in Congress. We now turn to our next speaker, Representative Grace Meng, a member of the House Appropriations Committee and a champion for programs that support healthy communities and a healthy environment. Over to you, Representative Meng.
Hello, I am Congresswoman Grace Meng, representing New York's 6th Congressional District and co-chair of the House International Water and Sanitation Caucus. I am with Haseen Jahan, the country director for WaterAid Bangladesh. Haseen is a civil engineer by training and has experience in water, sanitation, waste management, as well as the energy and agriculture sectors. In addition, she is WaterAid's lead on menstrual hygiene health in Bangladesh. And today we are here to discuss menstrual hygiene health and the challenges women and girls in low resource settings face in managing their periods. Every month, nearly 2 billion people around the world menstruate. Many face discriminatory social norms, gender inequality, stigma, poverty, and lack of access to adequate water, sanitation, and hygiene to manage their periods. Before I became a member of Congress, I honestly hadn't thought about the issue of menstrual hygiene health and the extreme difficulties so many face accessing these products, both here in the United States and all around the world. I was fortunate enough to be able to afford period products when I was growing up. And I actually learned about the issue when a young woman in my district wrote to me about how homeless people did not have access to menstrual products. She also informed me that shelters in New York City were not allowed to purchase these items with the federal grant money that they received. Lack of access to menstrual products can hinder a person's day-to-day life, making it difficult to attend school, secure job interviews, and pursue opportunities that could lead to economic advancement. Access to safe, affordable menstrual products and sanitation facilities is a healthcare right and a human right. Haseen, thank you so much for your great work, and thank you for joining me today to talk about this important topic. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I wanted to ask Haseen, what are the challenges that women and girls face when managing their periods, and how do poor menstrual experiences impact them in the workplace and at school?
Thank you so much, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to discuss this issue, which is one of my very very passionate subject to discuss always. So let me start both women and girls face challenges in managing their periods and of course have immense impacts on their income, academic performance, health, and other aspects. Let me clarify a bit in the context of Bangladesh. Girls miss out their schools, and the reasons behind these absenteeism are stigma, lack of access to menstruation products, and of course, lack of access to gender-friendly toilets at academic institutions. A recent national survey says that 25% girls miss attendance on an average 3 days per month. So you can imagine the extent of this impact. And this definitely has impact on their academic performance. In case of working women, they miss out their work days, along with their health and general well-being. They are also impacted by their work performance and linked with earning. So all these are kind of interlinked. WaterAid work in hard-to-reach areas and with hard-to-reach populations. So from my experience, I can say that people living in those hard-to-reach areas suffer more because of lack of information and awareness on these issues. And more than half of the students in Bangladesh do not have any idea about menarche, the first period. So they don't know what happens when the first period takes place. And so this is something very shocking for many students. And this is one of the reasons is culturally we don't feel comfortable to discuss this. There are other issues like lack of access to sanitary napkins or other safe menstrual hygiene management products at affordable prices. Almost half of the adolescent girls in our country use sanitary napkins, while majority of the women and girls still use old clothes and rags. And most importantly, these old clothes and rags are not properly cleaned and dried up under the sun. And these actually cause diseases. And again, they feel shy to visit doctors due to stigma. And in turn, this creates more complexity leading to poor reproductive health. So this is in short my response on your question, and we can discuss more.
You're right. We need to have that communication and dialogue to normalize the conversation around menstruation. When I first began talking about menstrual equity and I had to testify in Congress in front of a mostly male committee about period poverty, a lot of people thought I was talking about things that, should not be talked about in public. But we need to discuss this issue, like you said, because the lack of conversation and education about it hurts our ability to pass legislation that addresses menstrual equity and access to adequate sanitation and hygiene. I'm so incredibly grateful for leaders like yourselves, Haseen, who are working to engage community leaders locally about these difficult conversations, and really heartened by the progress that you're making and all the ideas that you are continuing to work on. So thank you so much for taking the time today to talk about menstrual hygiene health and the work that WaterAid is doing to support safer environments for women and girls to manage their periods. I'm so encouraged by USAID's efforts to provide access to water and sanitation services globally by working with governments around the world to provide sustainable, climate-resilient water and sanitation infrastructure. Nevertheless, we all know that more must be done. As Vice Chair of our House Appropriations Subcommittee on State and Foreign Operations, which funds the activities of the Department of State and USAID, I'm working to not only increase funding for global water, sanitation, and hygiene activities, but also to ensure that USAID and our State Department are including access to menstrual hygiene products and their disposal in all our WASH programming. I really look forward to continuing to work with our partners at WaterAid, and I want to thank them for all their work to combat one of the worst hidden inequities of our generation. And thank you, Haseen, for the work that you do.
Thank you so much, Meg. Thank you.
We now come to the conclusion of today's program. Thank you to each of the co-chairs of the Congressional International Water and Sanitation Caucus for joining us here today. As you heard from our speakers, this year it is vital to redouble U.S. global leadership for water security that enables both people and nature to thrive. If you'd like more information about the caucus or to join, please contact the staffers listed here. Thank you to the organizations hosting this discussion, and thank you for joining today's event, Water, Water Everywhere, a building block for global security.